And you're also so identified with Shakespeare. I'm wondering, did you see Shakespearean themes in the story of Cinderella, and how did you bring them out in the movie, if they're there?
Well, I think you can see it everywhere because there's a two-way process. You look at Shakespeare and he always borrowed from other great myth writers and storytellers, chroniclers. So he was always borrowing and raiding, usually as these mythic characters, not quite Cinderella stories, but sometimes. And then, you know, from the other point of view, when you do a piece of work and you look back via Shakespeare at all your sort of sources, he wrote about families often, wrote about love a lot. Wrote about this possibility of whether we can achieve some kind of personal happiness in difficult circumstances. A parallel story, weirdly enough, is King Lear. King Lear is it's a father, three daughters. Their inheritance is involved. People are unhappy that they don't get what they think is their due. Some people appear to be cruelly treated, and at one stage he doesn't say have courage and be kind, but the character of Kent in King Lear says, in the midst of great misfortune, have patience and endure. Sort of Shakespearean version of, you know what, take a deep breath, just try and get on with it. It sounds so trite, but if the stories can support the idea that sometimes that's all you got to do, Shakespeare seemed to be as prepared to be as simple as that, and if that was good enough for Shakespeare, it was good enough for us.
And if you could do one more Shakespeare film, what would it be?
You know, I will work this year in the theatre on a production of Shakespeare's The Winter's Tale. Bizarrely enough, a fairy tale, some might argue. And I find that interesting. Why did Shakespeare, at the height of his powers, just before he gave up the job, decide, you know what, I'm going to write 3 or 4 fairy tales, which is how some people would describe that play in The Tempest and Cymbeline and Pericles, and people, you know, attack them critically, so it's too silly. They're too simplistic, too much magic. Why did he get to a point where he just relies on tricks, like as it were, a fairy godmother? Well, I'd say, I would think, you know, I'd think about that. He knew what he was doing, so I think he decided that there was a simpler format where the supernatural and where magic could also wrap around something which, in the case of these plays, is deeply felt and profound. So The Winter's Tale has magic, fairy tale, your heart breaks just like it does in Cinderella, and it's bittersweet. That would be a marvelous thing to do.